I'm about to have to kill this thing horribly, aren't I? God damn it. Don't give me an achievement for that. I have conflicting feelings on Scorn. I do not think it's a bad game. I also don't think Ebb Software had anything to say with it beyond, isn't this weird and messed up? They wanted to make an H.R. Geiger looking world, and to their credit, they nailed it. The game's art direction is spot on, and the technical side of it is great. Makes you feel uncomfortable and unsettled the entirety of it. The one thing it's not is scary. I'm definitely going to be getting into spoilers, though there's not really a story to spoil, so I guess this might be more of set pieces, but keep that in mind. It's just a journey through a horrible world filled with horrible things. There's even a few instances where you feel like the bad guy. The world is monstrous. You as a player have to do monstrous things. Monstrous things are done to you. With how alien the world feels, it just seems like you're on a theme park ride to see what happens next. You have no context as to what's happening. Is this normal? Are you the only human left? How does this world operate? There's no way to know as the game won't tell you. This whole lack of context hurts the game overall as there's no real stakes to anything that's happening. Hell, you spend a good portion of the game with another creature's hands inside your gut, and that seems to be okay. They keep the HUD as minimalistic as possible, and there's a lot of little touches in the game, specifically how you interact with the machinery of the world, that up the immersion quite a bit. The devs wanted you to feel like you were someone that was just thrown into a world, and they definitely delivered on that. When I first started playing Scorn, I immediately thought of Myst. A lot of running around, touching things, asking, what does this do? How about this? Oh, here's a puzzle I think I can solve. It's comprised of 5 acts that pretty much play out just like that. The other part to the game is combat, and I'll get to that in a bit. Each act has its own puzzle theme to it, which keeps the puzzles feeling fresh. They don't repeat themselves, really. Even though all the puzzles definitely have that Geiger flavor to them, they're simple and easy to grasp, which is very good since this game has no tutorial whatsoever. And as I said before, they won't tell you anything. The environment has to tell you everything you need to know, and I actually think they did a good job there. Once I got through Act 1 and knew the visual language of the game, all the other acts were pretty smooth going. The only hurdle to those was when combat became a thing. That doesn't happen until Act 2 when you get an actual weapon. And that is unfortunately the worst weapon in the game, and one of the worst feeling weapons I've ever had to use in a game. Anything that stops your forward momentum or causes you to have to replay a section is just a huge motivation killer. It is possible to just skip some enemies as they have their own kind of behavior patterns in the game. They will just kind of wander off if you let them. Though there's still some you have to deal with, especially in Act 3 or 4 when you have more weapons on hand. But that is when the combat actually starts to feel alright. There's only 4 weapon types across the entirety of the game, and each one is pretty much set to kill a certain enemy. Hell, the last weapon you get is only used on the game's sole boss fight. Your healing options in the game are relegated to an item that functions exactly like a medkit, just runs off of charges. You have to bring it to med stations to recharge it. However, when I first got the item, I didn't realize that's what it was. I thought it was a key to some new puzzle, so I went a bit before I realized I could even heal. I feel like combat was only put in so there was some stakes in the game, like you had to have a threat of dying, but I don't think that's what it ended up adding. It just comes off as an annoyance and an unnecessary roadblock. I'm unsure why they put in this manual weapon switching that you can do. The quick buttons on the D-pad are the way you should be doing it and the only way you should be doing it. Doing the long drawn-out process of the manual weapon switching will get you killed. There is no manual save option in the game either. Your only options there are the game's checkpoint system, which does a mostly okay job. There are times where it sends you back way further than it should. The game also gives you a save point where you can reload the start of a new act. I did enjoy the game's lone boss fight, as it played out more like a puzzle, and it felt like there is more of a meaning to the fight itself. It's the opposite of the creature you brutally kill in the first opening act of the game. This one recognizes what's going to happen to it, so it fights back. Scorn goes all in on the Geiger aesthetic, and with very little else of substance to latch onto, it's hard to give it a blanket recommendation. Like I said at the beginning, it's not a bad game. It's a Geiger funhouse. All flash and no substance if the flash was just atmospheric horror. If you want a puzzle game, and you don't mind some iffy combat, you'll probably enjoy it. None of my complaints were a deal breaker by themselves, but at a $40 asking price, it probably would have been. As a Game Pass game though, it's definitely worth a try, as if nothing else, it's a unique experience. What did y'all think about Scorn? Leave a comment below and let's talk about it. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and all that nice YouTube algorithm jazz. And thanks for watching.